Hi everyone, and welcome to another English story that will help you learn English through emotions, meaning, and real life. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring English stories. Now, let's start today's story, Know Your Value. Ethan was a 17-year-old boy who lived in a small, quiet town. He was thin, shy, and always walked with his head down. His clothes were old, and his shoes had holes in them. At school, other students often laughed at him. They said things like, "Ethan is so poor," or "he will never become anything." Every time he heard those words, Ethan felt smaller and smaller inside. He didn't hate them, he just believed them. He thought, maybe they are right. Maybe I'm not good enough. Ethan's father had died when he was young. His mother worked long hours in a small bakery just to pay the bills. She loved him deeply, but she was too tired to notice how sad he had become. Most evenings, Ethan would sit by the window, looking at the stars, wondering if his life would ever change. At school, things weren't any better. He tried hard, but no one seemed to see his effort. One day, the teacher announced a science competition. The winner would receive a scholarship, a chance to go to college for free. Ethan's heart filled with excitement. He loved science, especially building small machines. He thought, maybe this is my chance to prove I'm worth something. For the next few weeks, Ethan worked hard on his project, a simple robot made from old metal parts. He used wires from broken radios, screws from an old bike, and a small motor he found in the garbage. He stayed up late every night, fixing, testing, and improving it. When the day of the competition arrived, Ethan's hands were shaking with nervousness. In the big school hall, other students presented beautiful projects, shiny, colorful, and expensive. When it was Ethan's turn, he placed his small, rusty robot on the table. Some students laughed quietly. One whispered, "That thing looks like trash." Ethan's face turned red. He tried to explain how the robot worked, but his voice was weak and trembling. When he finished, only a few people clapped politely. Later, when the results were announced, Ethan didn't win. He wasn't even mentioned. That night, he walked home in silence. He didn't cry. He just felt empty. He thought about giving up on his dreams. He thought maybe everyone was right. Maybe he was just a poor, useless boy. When he reached home, his grandfather was sitting on the porch, drinking tea. The old man noticed the sadness on Ethan's face. He smiled gently and said, "You look like someone who lost a battle." Ethan sighed. "Grandpa, I don't think I'm good at anything. Everyone's better than me." His grandfather didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars for a moment, then stood up and went inside the house. A few minutes later, he came back holding a small wooden box. Inside it was an old pocket watch. It was beautiful but clearly very old. The metal was scratched, and the glass had tiny cracks. The old man handed it to Ethan and said, "Tomorrow morning, I want you to take this watch to the market. Tell the shopkeepers that you want to sell it. See how much they offer." Ethan looked confused. "You want me to sell your watch?" His grandfather smiled. "Don't worry. I don't want you to really sell it. I just want to know what people think it's worth." Ethan nodded and went to bed. The next morning, he went to the market. He showed the watch to a fruit seller. The man looked at it and said, "It's old and broken. I can give you $10 for it." Ethan thanked him and walked away. He went to a second shop, a clothing store. The shopkeeper looked at it and said, "It's not worth much. Maybe $15. At the third shop, a watch seller examined it carefully and said, it's quite old. I can fix it, but it's not special. I'll give you $20. Ethan returned home and told his grandfather what happened. I think it's not worth much, he said sadly. The old man smiled again and said, Now, go to the museum in town. Show the watch to the antique collector there. Let's see what he says. Ethan did as his grandfather asked. When the collector saw the watch, his eyes widened. He took it carefully and said, This is a rare piece. It's more than 100 years old. It belonged to a famous craftsman. If you want to sell it, I can pay you $1,000 for it. Ethan was shocked. He quickly went home and told his grandfather everything. The old man nodded slowly and said, You see, my boy, the same watch was offered $10 in one place, $15 in another, and $1,000 in the right one. The difference was not in the watch, it was in the place. He looked deeply into Ethan's eyes and continued, People will never see your real value if you stay where they can't appreciate you. Don't let others decide your worth. Find the place, the people, who see what you're truly made of. Ethan sat quietly. Tears filled his eyes, but for the first time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of understanding. He realized how much he had let others control how he saw himself. That night, as he looked again at the stars, he smiled. He didn't feel small anymore. He whispered to himself, Maybe I'm not worthless. Maybe I just haven't found my place yet. That night, after hearing his grandfather's words, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, looking at the ceiling, replaying everything in his mind. The laughter of his classmates, the disappointment at school, and then his grandfather's calm voice saying, The difference is not in the watch, it's in the place. Those words echoed in his head like music. For the first time, he began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he had been living his life in the wrong place. Not a wrong town, but around people who never saw his true value. The next morning, Ethan woke up early. He found his grandfather sitting on the porch again, sipping his tea and watching the sunrise. Ethan joined him quietly. For a few minutes, they sat in silence, listening to the sound of birds and the soft wind. Finally, Ethan said, Grandpa, I think I understand what you meant yesterday. The old man smiled gently without looking away from the horizon. Oh, tell me, what did you understand, my boy? Ethan hesitated. You meant that people judge me based on what they can see. My clothes, my money, my grades. But they don't know what's inside me. And maybe I shouldn't let their opinions decide how I see myself. His grandfather turned to him with pride in his eyes. Exactly, Ethan. You are learning fast. You see, life will always have people who think they know your worth. But the truth is, only you can decide that. He leaned back in his chair and continued. When I was young, I worked for a rich man. He always treated me like I was nothing. He said I wasn't smart, that I was just a worker. For years, I believed him. Then one day, I started my own small shop. I worked hard, built it from nothing, and it became successful. That's when I realized he was wrong about me all along. Ethan listened carefully. He had never heard his grandfather talk about his past before. The old man continued, The world is full of noise, Ethan. Everyone wants to tell you who you are. But if you listen to all of them, you'll forget your own voice. And once you forget that voice, you'll lose yourself. Ethan looked down, playing with the edge of his sleeve. Grandpa, but what if people never see my worth? What if I try and still fail? His grandfather chuckled softly. Ah, failure, the best teacher of them all. He took a sip of his tea, then said, "Let me tell you something. You don't fail when others don't see your value. You fail only when you stop believing in your value." Those words hit Ethan deeply. He realized how many times he had given up on himself, not because he couldn't do something, but because he believed others who said he couldn't. The grandfather stood up, stretched, and said, "Come with me, Ethan. There's something I want to show you." They walked together behind the house, to an old wooden shed filled with dust, tools, and memories. In one corner stood a broken bicycle. The paint was gone, the tires were flat, and the chain was rusty. Ethan frowned. "What's this, Grandpa?" The old man smiled. "That's the bike your father used to ride when he was your age. It hasn't worked in years. Everyone said it was junk, but I kept it, because I knew one day someone would see its value again." He handed Ethan a small box of tools. "Fix it," he said simply. Ethan blinked in surprise. "But I don't know how." His grandfather interrupted. "You're smarter than you think. Remember your science project? The robot you built from scraps? You did that all by yourself. Now, use that same mind and fix this bike." Ethan stared at the old bicycle. Something inside him sparked, a small, quiet determination. He nodded. "I'll try." For the next few days, Ethan worked on the bike after school. At first, it was difficult. The bolts were stuck, the gears were stiff, and his hands got dirty and bruised. But he didn't stop. Every evening, his grandfather watched silently from the porch, smiling with quiet pride. Slowly, the bicycle began to look alive again. New paint, oiled chain, fixed tires. After a week, Ethan finally finished it. When he took it outside and rode it around the garden, his laughter filled the air, pure, free, and full of joy. His grandfather clapped and said, "See, the bike was not broken. It only needed someone who believed it could be fixed." He paused and added softly, "You're the same, Ethan. You're not broken. You just needed to believe that you can be more." Ethan stopped pedaling and looked at his grandfather. In that moment, he realized something powerful. His value didn't depend on money, success, or other people's approval. It was always there inside him, waiting to be recognized. That evening, he wrote in his notebook, "I will never let others decide my worth again." He didn't know what the future would bring. Maybe challenges, maybe failures. But now he had something stronger than fear, a belief in himself. And that belief changed everything. Weeks passed after Ethan fixed the old bicycle. Every morning, he rode it to school, feeling the wind on his face and a quiet pride in his heart. The same classmates who used to laugh at him noticed something different now. He wasn't louder, richer, or more popular, but he walked with confidence. He smiled more. He looked like someone who had found peace. One afternoon, during art class, the teacher announced a competition. Each student had to create something that showed what makes a person valuable. Most students groaned. They thought it was a boring topic. But Ethan's eyes lit up. That evening, he went home and found his grandfather in the garden. "Grandpa," he said, "I want to join the competition, but I don't know what to make yet." His grandfather smiled. "Then make something that speaks from your heart." Ethan thought about it all night. He remembered the old watch, the bicycle, the lessons about worth and belief. And then, An idea came to him. He would build something that told a story, his story. For the next week, Ethan worked hard. He collected small broken parts, old metal pieces, wires, bits of wood. His classmates laughed when they saw him digging through the school's trash bins. But Ethan didn't care. He had learned something powerful. People's opinions don't define your value. When the competition day came, everyone displayed their projects. Some had beautiful paintings. Others made sculptures or posters with big, colorful words. Then it was Ethan's turn. He walked to the front of the class, holding a small sculpture built entirely from broken parts. "This," he said softly, "is called the hidden worth." The room went quiet. Ethan continued, "Everything you see here was thrown away. Everyone thought these pieces were useless, just like how people sometimes think others are worthless. But when I looked closer, I saw potential. I put them together, and now they form something whole, something beautiful." His voice grew stronger as he added, "That's what I learned from my grandfather. Sometimes the world won't see your value. Sometimes you might not see it either. But that doesn't mean it's gone. You just have to look deeper and believe." The class stayed silent for a few seconds. Then everyone started clapping. Even the teacher wiped a tear from her eye. It wasn't just a project, it was a message. A week later, Ethan was announced as the winner of the competition. But for him, the real victory was something much greater. He had found his voice. From that day, Ethan became different. He started helping other students who felt invisible or weak. When someone failed a test, he would say, "Hey, that's just one test. It doesn't decide your worth." When someone got bullied, he stood up for them. And slowly, people began to respect him, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. Months passed. Ethan graduated from high school and decided to study psychology. He wanted to understand the human mind, to learn why people lose confidence, and how they can rebuild it. His dream was to become a motivational speaker one day, just like his grandfather had been for him. Years later, Ethan stood on a small stage in front of hundreds of young people. He looked at their faces, some full of hope, some full of fear, and began to speak. "I used to be like you," he said. "I thought I wasn't smart enough, good enough, or special enough. I let others decide how much I was worth. But one day, an old man, my grandfather, taught me something I'll never forget. He said, 'The world doesn't decide your value. You do.'" The audience listened in silence. Ethan continued, "If people can't see your value, it doesn't mean you don't have any. It just means they're looking through the wrong eyes. Don't waste your life trying to prove yourself to those who don't appreciate you. Instead, go where you are valued. And most importantly, never forget your worth." When the speech ended, the room filled with applause. A young boy walked up to him afterward and said, "Sir, I was thinking about quitting school because I thought I wasn't good enough. But now, I think I'll try again." Ethan smiled, feeling his heart full. In that moment, he realized his grandfather's lesson had come full circle. He was now the one passing it on, helping others believe in their value. That night, when Ethan came home, he went to the old porch where his grandfather used to sit. The chair was empty now, but he could almost feel the old man's presence. Calm, wise, proud. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Grandpa. You taught me more than I ever knew." He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and smiled. For the first time in his life, Ethan didn't need anyone to tell him he was enough. He already knew. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Believe in yourself, even when no one else does. If this story touched your heart, don't forget, you have value and your dreams matter. Tell me in the comments, what does value mean to you? I'd love to read your thoughts. And if you want to learn English through inspiring stories like this one, hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new story. Remember, you are special, you are worthy, and you are learning every day. Keep believing in yourself.